Okay, so now what? Um, you will be finishing up the first portion of goal analysis, and I'm going to reference some upcoming things so you can be thinking about them as you go forth, because you might find an opportune moment to do this. That's why I alert you to it. But all that's due for this upcoming week are the sections 2.5.1 and 2.5.2. Now, there is the team activity 2 coming up this week that you need to work together and practice doing a learning goal worksheet. So you'll do that via form and pre-assign the same pre-assigned groups that you worked with in team activity 1. So just to reflect, you've got a goal analysis, a goal statement, and you will proceed these by doing team activity 2. So you'll be completing a learning goal worksheet with your group in a discussion forum, and you'll upload the finished product using the template that I've provided. And it can be something fun or any activity for this team activity, but you will be completing the learning goal worksheet on your semester project that will also be due when you submit report 1. So it's not due this week, the final product, but I do want your teams to get out and play with this and practice it once and have a chance to talk about it and me to give you some feedback on it before it comes to report 1, where you in fact will attach a learning goal worksheet. The second part of this week's assignment is that you're going to write a goal or need statement. And this is output from the needs assessment that you did, where you identified the instructional need. And it can also be classified as your terminal objective, where you give a kind of an overview of what is it I want my learners to walk away with. Some examples here: the students need to be able to throw a ball, students need to be able to use a 35 millimeter slide projector. That is pretty broad, but I'm going to have you address this, and I'll give you a little more information on writing a goal statement. But you'll build it off what you've learned through needs analysis and through your learning goal worksheet. The elements of this written statement should state what a learner will do to demonstrate the goal accomplishment and state what a learner will be doing when accomplishing the goal. As mentioned, I've got a couple of things that I want to reference because you may find a more opportunity to jump in there and attack this as you're working through this series of steps. But they are not due for week 4, module 3, just as information. The book references elaboration statements, and you're charged with providing somewhat of an elaboration statement, which is an expansion of the terminal objective and requires an action verb, and also which is the action verb which is based on the particular cognitive outcome or learning outcome based on Gagne's list. And all of these can be built from the learning goal worksheet. I perceive elaboration statements as performance objectives. And so when we move into design, you're going to be writing specific learning objectives based on Gagne's model of what should be in a learning objective. And so for all means and purposes, that's when you read about the term elaboration statement, equate it with performance objectives that you'll be writing in design. So just to kind of review everything that you're working on and it's I've providing you a sample from the book where they're showing the major task and subordinate skills, and that is you are going to ultimately perform a goal analysis where you classify instructional goals by domains of learning, which you'll use the learning goal worksheet for that. And then you're going to do task analysis where you brainstorm or physically and mentally perform the goal and you jot down the steps. We're going to talk about that in the next module significantly. And you diagram these steps and subordinate skills out with entry skills as well, and that will all be part of the next module. So I'm just alerting you to what's coming, kind of a satellite view. when we do start talking about task analysis, there's several ways to approach it. There's a very sequential way, start to finish, and you can also go from finish to start, which I found works very good when you bring a room of key stakeholders in and you have them talk about, okay, let's start with the finished outcome and work backwards. How do we get there? And talk about skills, knowledge, intellectual skills, attitudes, actual actions that they do. And this is data that you're going to want to record. And I recall experiences where we filled the walls with flip chart sheets of this kind of data and information. And we had all kind of stakeholders involved, people doing it, supervisors, managers, customers, could be students involved in this process. And you always want to get a sign off before moving forward. So just to recap what's due this week, you are going to do team assignment 2, where your team works with the learning goal worksheet after reading the article, and then you're ultimately going to do for your project a learning goal worksheet where you define the main steps or tasks involved based on an initial goal statement or terminal objective that you've defined, which again all is or fields or blocks in the learning goal worksheet. And then you're going to write out a narrative approach to your goal statement. And and that doesn't have to be significantly long, but it should be clear as to what your goal is of the learner is going to be. What is it you're trying to achieve? So that's what's due this week is 3 things. And